This is the Obscura Dossier, Episode 5. It does not blink. Personal account submitted by received June 11th, 2025, concerning an anomalous experience during a lucid dream state, reportedly involving non-human awareness and persistent post-sleep phenomena. Statement begins. I need you to understand something first. Yes, I write horror. Quietly on the side, late at night, on lunch breaks, in quiet pockets of time no one else notices. It's mostly fiction. Monsters, dread, the slow kind of fear that sinks in rather than jumps out. I've always been drawn to it. Not because I enjoy being scared, but because fear is honest. It cuts through everything else. But writing doesn't pay the bills. By day, I work in the medical field. Claims, mostly. Documentation. I catalog injuries and illnesses. Cases of broken bones, chronic conditions, trauma, both physical and psychological. I read reports of people falling apart and put them into codes and spreadsheets. There's something strange about that, reducing the worst moments of someone's life into neat little lines of text. It's numbing, in a way. Routine suffering, sanitized pain. Maybe that's why I write. Maybe that's how I cope. Turning all of that human wreckage into metaphor, building monsters from it, controlling it through story. It makes the fear manageable, when it's mine, when I'm the one creating it. But what happened to me wasn't fiction, and it wasn't mine. And no, I wasn't drunk or high or sleep deprived. There were no substances, no external causes. I hadn't read anything unusual or watched anything disturbing that night. It was an ordinary evening. I went to bed like I always do. Except I don't always dream like other people. I don't know how to explain this without sounding like I've already lost the plot, but I've always experienced things. Glimpses, sometimes small flashes of events before they happen. Not dramatic, not prophetic, just strange, boring moments from the future. Conversations I hadn't had yet. Familiar words spoken by people I haven't met. Usually months later, I'll be sitting in a meeting or talking with a friend and suddenly know exactly what they're going to say. It's not useful. It's not profound. It's just unsettling. And when it's not that, it's lucid dreams. Astral projection. Maybe. If you believe in that kind of thing. I don't know how I do it, I just always have. I slip out, drift around, float above my body. Sometimes I travel through strange places, otherworldly, quiet, empty. Sometimes I just watch the stars. It's peaceful mostly. Cold and vast and still. It's never felt threatening. Usually I travel, float around, observe the endless dark. This time felt no different, at least at first. I wish I could say when it began, pinpoint the exact moment it shifted, but I can't. One moment I was floating, like I always do, conscious but detached, lucid, weightless, drifting through space, not the abstract dream space or shifting colors and nonsense logic, but real space. That black velvet vastness I've seen so many times before in these strange travels. Stars like ancient pinpricks scattered across an endless canvas. Distant clouds of light and fire pulsing like breath. It was quiet, still, familiar. I didn't know where I was going. I never really do. There's no destination, just movement. Just a silent current pulling me along through the dark. But this time, something changed. Not in what I saw, at least not at first. It was a feeling, a sudden shift in the air. Even though there was no air, a creeping wrongness that slithered through the void like a cold mist, seeping deep into my bones, settling there with a weight that defied gravity. Something was there, something ancient and unknowable, watching. At first it was hidden, an absence lurking behind the stars, an unseen predator waiting beyond the thin veil of existence. The very fabric of space around me seemed tense, twisting and contorting as though I had crossed a boundary that no mortal, no creature of flesh and thought was meant to traverse. And then it opened its eyes. But there were no eyes. Not as eyes that are known to us. These were gaping voids, abysses of pure absence, shaped into the semblance of ocular orbs, but darker than any shadow. I recognized them as eyes only because the cosmos around them buckled and folded inward like black silk being drawn back to reveal something impossibly deep and terrible. The light itself did not merely fade. It was torn asunder, shredded by a hunger that obeyed no law, no logic. Unlike black holes which devour according to the cruel arithmetic of physics, this thing existed beyond such constraints. It was an abomination of existence itself, something far older and more profound than the stars. It did not see me with vision, nor did it gaze with intent as men do. Instead, it became aware of me. Its gaze was not a beam, but a force, a consciousness that pressed inward like an unbearable gravity, folding my thoughts and spirit into an ever-tightening spiral. It was neither malevolent nor benevolent. Those concepts were meaningless here. It simply was. A vast, indifferent presence, monolithic and silent, like an endless ocean watching a single raindrop fall and dissolve. I was that raindrop, utterly insignificant, drowning in a sea of incomprehensible vastness. It was like beholding a god and a monster entwined, a cosmic entity so alien that the human mind recoils at the effort to comprehend it. It bore no kindness, no peace, no wrath. It was beyond all such things. It simply existed, eternally and implacably, a fragment of the dark unknown that humbles all who dare to glimpse it. And then I saw movement. Perhaps it was not movement as we understand it, but a shift within the infinite voids. That were its eyes. Within those depths, blacker than the blackest shadow, darker than the abyssal shroud of space itself, something stirred. It was a darkness so profound that it seemed to absorb the very concept of light and existence, contrasting against that endless night around it with living, malevolent depth, and I felt it move. Its gaze shifted toward me. I was frozen. Time stretched and warped, and eternity compressed into a handful of seconds. I was locked in place, a single point of fragile awareness before an incomprehensible force. It stared at me, not with curiosity, not with anger, but with something ancient and indifferent, like a slumbering leviathan disturbed, whose consciousness now focused sharply on a tiny ripple in its vast sea. I had awakened it somehow. I had disturbed something that should have remained dormant, lost to the dark expanse between stars. Its presence and aura that defied definition engulfed me, swallowing all rational thought and sensation. And then came the sound. If it could be called a sound. No human instrument, no voice could hope to replicate it. It was a vibration and a groan intertwined with a language alien beyond all imagining, something you felt rather than heard. Not audible in the vacuum of space, but resonating deep within my bones and marrow. It was as if the very air around me trembled with a wordless chant, speaking a tongue so unnatural and vast that it bent the very fabric of my mind. Its voice violated the causality of my brain, scrambling thought and reason in a way that no sane mind should endure. I could not interpret it. I could not understand. But it caused me unbearable pain. And now, even trying to recall it twists my mind, sending sharp ache and nausea through my skull. Time ceased to exist. The moment stretched into an endless, suffocating void, every second bleeding into the next with unbearable slowness. My mind fractured under the weight of it, something deep inside me breaking apart like fragile glass shattering on cold stone. In that vast, timeless expanse, I saw with terrible clarity just how infinitesimal I truly was. A speck of dust, lost in a boundless cosmos, utterly insignificant, invisible against the infinite backdrop of existence, and yet I was seen. Not by some benevolent god or kindly guardian, but by that unknowable presence. Its gaze settled on me, and that alone was enough. Enough to wrench me from the dreamscape and hurl me back into waking life, screaming. Drenched in cold sweat, my body shook violently as though it was trying to expel the memory, the horror, the unbearable weight of what I'd witnessed. I don't know how long I cried. Minutes, hours. Time had already abandoned me once. But the nightmare didn't end with awakening. It lingers. It haunts me. The dream may have faded, but the gaze has not. It watches still. Not from some distant void. Not with detached disinterest, but watching. With a focus so intense, so oppressive, I can feel it pressing in on me from all sides, like a crushing pressure behind my eyes. Like a low, unbearable heat burning just at the base of my skull. It's as if a vast, ancient, and patient consciousness is staring through every layer of my being, seeing past my flesh and thoughts, piercing into something more primal, more fragile. Seeing far more than I want it to see. And there's no escape, no rest, no peace. Because every time I close my eyes, the darkness that should bring relief, I see it there, lurking in the void behind my eyelids, that impossible darkness folding in on itself, watching. It waits patiently, implacable and silent. Blinking feels like an unbearable risk, like I'm giving it permission to stare deeper. Sleeping, I fear that even more. Sleep would be a surrender, a return to its realm, to the place where it waits. So I stay awake, because I cannot unsee it, because it still watches. It does not need to move closer. Its mere awareness that silent, all-encompassing presence is enough. I have been seen, marked, and there is no undoing it. No retreat, no sanctuary. It watches. And that is far worse than any chase. This is the closest I can come to describing it, but even these words, this feeble attempt, fall desperately short. The true horror transcends language. The experience was deeper, darker, more terrible than I could ever convey. I could write these words 100 times over and still fail to capture even a fraction of what I endured. It was horror. Absolute. Terrifying. Terrible all at once. I am deathly afraid to sleep now. Every night I lie awake, haunted by the knowledge that it is out there, waiting. I do not know what I will do, how I will endure this fragile, feeble existence beneath such an all-consuming gaze. The terror is endless, and I am utterly alone. End statement. This subject's testimony is frankly difficult to take at face value. Claims of an indescribable entity watching from beyond reality, with eyes that consume light itself, sound like the ramblings of a mind overwhelmed by fear and isolation. No corroborating evidence has been found to support the presence of such an entity, nor any physical phenomena consistent with the account. Psychological evaluation indicates acute stress disorder, possibly triggered by lucid dreaming or sleep paralysis, compounded by underlying anxiety. While the subject insists on the reality of the entity's gaze, there is little to suggest anything beyond a severe hallucination or trauma-induced delusion. That said, the persistent nature of the subject's fear and the vividness of the experience warrant continued observation, if only to ensure their mental well-being. As of now, this case is classified as Anomaly Code H-042-Kappa. Classification: Psychological. Status: Active/Sentient. Priority: Unknown. In short, there's been no sign since. But sometimes silence isn't safety. It's anticipation. And if he's right, if something truly saw him, then whatever it is might simply be waiting. End recording. The Obscura Dossier is a podcast created by K.W. Krieger, licensed under a Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial Share-alike 4.0 international license. If you enjoyed today's episode, please like, drop a comment, and subscribe. And as always, until next time.